It is June 28th, 1994. We've just completed our Tuesday Rotary Luncheon, and Eugene Alhart, a member of this club since 1939, has just been honored for 47 years of perfect attendance. We thought it would be a fitting time to sit down and share a few recollections about his years as a member of Rochester Rotary.
I want you to ask me a few questions as to what input and what impact or what imprint Rotary has on Rotarians and what it had on my life for the many years I've been in it.
Well, why don't we start with that? You joined, what, 1939?
1939.
I want to go back to, who was it, McIntosh? Who was it?
Oh, McIntosh was my sponsor.
No, when he first said Rotary, what did you think?
Well, when he first said Rotary, I thought I was going to a gas station. I didn't know anything about it, and he said, let's go to Rotary. So I went with him, and when I found out that Rotary had so much to offer, and then when I found out that a sponsor binds himself to the one he sponsors. And so through the years, my sponsor, he bound himself to me that we became so familiar and so friendly that we grew up almost with his family and my family. And it was a wonderful experience. And when I got into Rotary, I find that Rotary has certain symbols to go by. Service above self. He profits most who serves the best. And then the four-way test. So down through the life, you can measure yourself by the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? And is it beneficial to all concerned? As I look at Rotary and the lives that I've met and the people that I've associated with, and to see the imprint on their lives made me realize that Rotary has more to offer than going to a dinner. We started out at the Powers Hotel way back in the 30s, and for 25 cents you could have crackers and milk. You'd sit there and you'd enjoy the fellowship. But then as time went on and Rotary developed from one place to another, the impact and the imprint that it had on me, it would take me all morning to tell you about it.
When you see the pin, I noticed you opened the Rotarian magazine, I don't know, the most current issue we have here for June, and one of the pages you have, what does this symbol mean? When you put that pin on, what does it mean to you, and what do you think it projects to other people?
Well, when I saw the Rotarian and the article that the president of Rotary International gave, Bob Barth, I thought, well, now, there's a man that was so friendly with me. You know, every time an international president comes, I go up and give him a little Bible. And in that Bible, and we say Proverbs 2:26, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he won't depart from it. And what Bob said to me, he said, you know, I'm going to take that with me, and I'm going to travel all over these countries and talk Rotary. And then when I looked in the Rotary magazine, it says, what does this symbol mean? I thought, well, now, here is the outline of the president's speech that he's given hundreds of times, but he went by an outline, the symbol of the Rotary pin or Rotary. And he started out by saying, you know, I can be relied upon. I can be dependable. I can be available. I give more than I receive. And then he said, and this is so true with Rotarians, I add value. When you take the talents of all our Rotarians and you see the values that are added, you can't help but feel that you're getting something, an imprint on your life that can't be erased.
What about from a family point of view? Well, I know growing up we had to make up those Rotaries. You can't get 47 years of perfect attendance without finding a Rotary club somewhere in the world.
Well, I asked my wife, Lois, I said, what do you think has impacted upon my life being a Rotarian? Well, she said, I could see friendship. I could see fellowship. I could see so many things develop when it came down to the family, how the family was brought up, and you know that you came into Rotary, and I'd like to say more about my son Don, who has given me pride and joy in Rotary, and seeing that he carries out the principles that the president is saying. You can rely on me. I'm dependable. I'm available. I give more than I get, and it's wonderful to let these thoughts come in your mind to say, well, what a privilege it's been to have been a Rotarian all these years, and then to reflect upon the things that have made your life richer and more productive, doing things you thought you couldn't do, but just doing them.
I remember in your office at work, a calendar, and it was a rip off a page every day, but every Tuesday had a different color to remind you of the Rotary meeting. I'm sure just having that in your office and trying to bring that into your business, how did Rotary impact the way you conducted your retail business?
Well, just take the four-way test. Is it the truth? You try to be truthful. Is it fair to all concerned? And will it build goodwill and better friendship? So as you conduct your business, as my wife said to me, you got more business by being in Rotary. So many people would come in the store, and they were Rotarians, and they'd buy a refrigerator or washer or dryer, and I got business from it. But I didn't join it to get the business, but I made friends that when I needed something, and I had things that pertained to our house or something, there's always a plumber or a painter or someone available, and they were reliable, and so the relationship of being in business and enjoying the business of others was a wonderful thing.
I was trying to think back to the original Sunshine Camp, because I can remember going out there, but I can't remember specifically. I remember working on a cabinet. I can't remember if we were painting it or washing it or cleaning the screens. I'm trying to think of some of the things you did out there, and I obviously went along because I was trying to remember what we did.
Well, the Sunshine Camp Committee was one of the #1 committees I was on. And they had the boys and girls from the different schools, and they met at Lakeshore Boulevard by Lake Ontario. And they had Miss Tompkinson, who was I think an old maid school teacher, but she had a few friends, and they came, and they were the teachers, and they conducted the camp there. You even had to walk across the railroad track to get into the water, into the lake. But we had wonderful times down there, and I liked ice cream and frozen custard. And so I had a machine that I made, a little custard machine that would make frozen custard. So I would take it down to the camp, and a friend from Chaplain Dairy said, we'll give you the mix for nothing. And so we had at that camp the desserts from a frozen custard machine, all furnished, no charge. And I shouldn't say this, but one of our members was a painter. And we got together to paint the cabins, and the windows and all. And when we got through, he wanted to celebrate. He had his little puppy dog with him, so he got a little red paint, put it on the tail of the dog, said, the job is finished.
The people in Rotary, and certainly joining in 1939 and having well over 50 years, who were some of the people you remember from this club? I know you've listed some, from Pat Cherney to Jim Morgan to Woody Bollitz. And who were some of the people, if you close your eyes and think Rotary, the first faces and visions that you see?
I'll close my eyes, and I'll go back to 20 years of perfect attendance. And there were 3 men at that table for 20 years of perfect attendance. It was Jim Morgan and Pat Cherney. Jim Morgan was the principal, I think, of Monroe High. And he came over, and when he took hold of that Rotary Club, he meant business. Things had to be done in order. And so we got together, and Jim inspired the whole group, and we went on, and I think of Jim as a wonderful promoter of Rotary. But if somebody asks me who has made maybe one of the greatest impressions on your life, I go back there and there was Pat Cherney. And when I think of Pat Cherney, and when I think of the symbol of Rotary, again, you can count on me. I'm available. I'm dependable. I give more than I get. If I had to look at all the Rotarians, there's so many of them, but I would say Pat Cherney is number one in my mind. And I could go on with a lot of other Rotarians, but I better be careful when I mention.
We sing the Happy Wanderer now because Dave Harvard was a song leader for a number of years.
Well, Dave Harvard inspired the Rotary Club with music. Now we have a chorus coming now. I almost feel like joining the chorus because you get into the spirit of singing there and you see the different ones there and they're enjoying it. See? But Dave Harvard was a song leader who had a little whistle. He'd blow his whistle and then he'd sing Let Me Call You Sweetheart or Happy Wanderer, or all these different songs. And I thought, well, now there's inspiration with our singing together. But when Dave got a little older and he was going to retire, he came and had a talk with me. And he says, you know, and I refer to the little testament again. He says, you know, in Colossians 3:16, that is one of my favorite verses. And it says, let the words of Christ dwell in you richly in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing you with songs and psalms, with singing in your heart. And when I thought of Dave Harvard and the way he sang and the inspiration he gave, I knew that he had something within him that made an imprint upon me. So I say there, along with Pat Cherney, is another man that has impressed me. I could name hundreds probably, but...
You put down Bucky Buckley now. Is that Bob or Bob's dad? Because there's a lot of father-son relationships in Rotary.
Well, when I think of the Hakes, you know, Leon Hakes and Bob Hakes and different ones, they call him Bucky Buckpit. Instead of Bucky Buckpit's son being Bucky Buckpit, they called him Bob at first. Now I think they're going to call him Bucky, see. But he has left an impression upon, now we call Bucky, who has been an example of the principles of Rotary that are impressed upon his heart. So he gave a poem at one time, and I liked that poem so well. I thought, well, I'm going to memorize it. And you know, our Rotary Club printed a little thing, and it says, here's the poem. A careful man I want to be, a little fellow follows me. I do not dare to go astray for fear he'll go the self-same way. I cannot once escape his eye. Whatever he sees me do, he tries. Like me, he says he's going to be, the little chap who follows me. So I must remember as I go through the summer sun or the winter snow, I'm building for the years to be a little chap who follows me.
It was a Buck Pitt or an Alhart or a Jackson. We want to talk a little bit, too, about some of the committees. And I know if we can widen out a little bit, we'll bring over some of that. I can move. You get the cords there, so we'll leave you down. But I want to talk a little bit about the industry committee. And I know you brought a couple of things that might tie into that. Oh. Yeah, all right.
Well, there again, of all the committees I've been on 2 committees every year for 55 years. And Jack Costello was the Rotarian who had charge of industry. And he had things done decently in order, and he had a program there. And every year we would put on a Christmas party. And we'd go to industry, and we'd have the whole group in the auditorium. And we'd bring like Pat Torpy, or my father-in-law was George Buchanan, he was an organist. He would play the music, and we would sing there, and we would have a regular program. If I had time, I can still give you the outline that I had of all those meetings. I kept I kept it somewhere anyway. and there, going way back into the 30s, at 1:15 p.m., we greeted the party, and we went on and we ushered them in, and we had all the different things outlined there for that whole Christmas party. And they loved it out there so much that they invited us out there for a number of years, and we'd go and we'd have the Christmas party. But the boys had a hobby, and they would have a talent. They would make things. And so every time they'd have their hobby show, they made a thing. Well, here's a beautiful church they made. They had the music in it, had the light in it. I put the plug in, the thing would light up. And for just a few pennies, you could buy the whole church. Then they had the sleigh, and that sleigh has been in our house for a good many years. And you know what the sleigh does? It holds all the Christmas cards. It's not big enough now, but it holds the Christmas cards, and every year we get that down. And I think I would like to donate this to the Rotary Club if they want to use it. Here is one of the products of the Boys of Industry, the talent that they had, and it might be a remembrance of industry.
Any other committees that you can remember that you'd like to comment on or bring to mind as we bring this to a conclusion a little bit?
Well, the Community Service Committee. I would go to the Community Service Committee and we'd bring up different ideas. One day I was at a little meeting and there was a school teacher there that said at number 9 school they have problems. And if something could be done for number 9 school, it would be wonderful and wonderfully appreciated. I just mentioned it at the Community Service Committee. And sitting next to me was Jim Diesenroth. And Jim there with his great big pencil there, he started to write down, you know. And when we got through, he said, Gene, let's go up to that number 9 school. So right from the meeting there, we went down to number 9 school, and he met a kindergarten teacher. And the kindergarten teacher said, you know, if we only could have a little money to take these kids on a little tour to experience things together, like a museum or someplace to go. And without any thought at all, Jim reached in his pocket, pulled out $50, and said, use this as a starter. And she was so surprised, but it started with Jim's enthusiasm to go down there, and now the history of number 9 school going to other schools is such that we're having an impact for the good, and furnishing sweaters and clothing, and there's so many things I could go into detail, but I would like to refer to Jim Diesenroth as another man that has made an imprint on the lives of many Rotarians, and it's going to be there as a result of Jim.
To bring this to a conclusion, I'm looking at this club and what it's done. If you could think for a moment how this community would be different if Rotary had never been formed, and how your life would be different if there had never been Rotary.
When you look at the leadership of Rotary, take Mark Ellingson, that comes to mind, or take Ned Sheldon. Oh, I could mention so many names in different work, in different businesses and schools and all. Their impact carrying these service above self principles to the whole community. It was like a beacon light. And in my own life, many things I've done that I wouldn't even think of doing until Rotary gave me the idea. And so serving on the committees, I would say, well, there's an imprint that can't be erased. When I think of an imprint, I think of Sammy Rockowitz. he prints the, well, every week he gets, you won't find his name on it, but every week he prints a spoke. But he puts the imprint on it. But one imprint that can't be erased is, again, the imprint of Sam Rockowitz, who puts on a wonderful imprint on all our members that I see.
So Rotary's made a difference.
Rotary has made a difference. And I could say, I'd like to be a friend of those I meet from day to day. I'd like to help them all I can along life's rugged way. I'd like to do the little things that are often left undone and give the little helps by which great victories are won. So you take the little helps of all these wonderful Rotarians and look at the great things that have been done. You'll see them in spoke from week to week, and those things are going to be bigger and bigger. But I would like to conclude maybe by saying one of the pride and joys of my Rotarian life is to see a son come in Rotary who quickly joined the ranks and became a president 87, 88. And I could see him working on the outside as well as on the inside. And when he saw that Rotary had no really place to go, we went to the Powers Hotel or we went to this place or that place. They had the Rotary offices over here or there, disorganized, and it was hard to get to them. He would write down and organize on paper. Then he would interview different people, and finally, I can almost see him come up with, here's a Holiday Inn. They can close off that petition there part. We can put the Rotary office right there. We can make arrangements for the club to meet there. And today, as I came to Rotary, you know, I've been doctor now, just in the last few weeks for bursitis, and I can't get up and down like I used to. And if I had to park over in the other places, I don't think I could get here. But he's arranged so that you can come here, and every now and then he gives me a little token. And I take that little token there, and I say, well, I know I can make Rotary today because I can ride right up, walk in, and when I go out, I got the token, everything's paid for. So thanks again for the wonderful inspiration you've been to me. He's so busy, I hardly have a chance to see him. This is the longest we've been together for
We want to thank Bill Finn
a
behind
long
the camera
time. And thank you,
bringing
Bill
it together.
Finn, for giving me the opportunity. If he asked me a lot of questions, I'd be here all day, but thanks again.
And thank you for